Got enough space on your shelf for a sidekick? Here's your look at the brand new McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Dick Grayson's Robin. Acrobat Dick Grayson was the youngest member of his parents' death-defying circus act, but after their cold-blooded murder, Dick vowed revenge. Seeing a genuine piece of himself in the boy, Batman took him in and gave him a better outlet for his anger. Becoming Batman's protege, Robin is an expert fighter and astounding acrobat with the toughest example in the world to live up to. But the boy's true strength may lie not in being Batman, but providing a beacon of hope and family throughout the Dark Knight's grim crusade. We all know you can't bring a boy to a battle, but can you bring a boy wonder to a battle? That's a different question altogether. Before we get a closer look, though, at the Gold Label Edition Dick Grayson Robin, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys. Yes, I would. They did provide the sample that we're about to have a look at. As I already mentioned, Dick Grayson is a Gold Label release. He is, though, utilizing the same body mold as the Carrie Kelly Robin. I'll bring her in for comparisons. Robin, though, Dick Grayson stands about 5.5 inches in height, or the figure's 13.5 centimeters tall. And you can't have a Robin without a Batman, so we're going to bring a couple of Batmans in for comparisons, and you can choose for yourself which one you'd like to display with the Boy Wonder. Here's, though, what he looks like with the blue version of the Hush Batman, if I can get him to stand. It's also one of the reasons why I did bring the camera back a little bit, because Batman's going to be a little bit taller than Robin, obviously. Robin's only going to go about to his pectoral muscles. If you prefer, though, a little bit smaller of a Batman, here's also what he looks like with the DC Rebirth Batman. And then I did, of course, want to also bring in a couple of Robins as well. I did already mention that Robin happened to be sharing the same body as the Dark Knight Returns Carrie Kelly Robin, and in fact, it is. I think I've even in the review of the Carrie Kelly Robin, I was pretty much certain we were going to be getting that body mold again to get ourselves a regular Golden Age or Silver Age Robin, and sure enough, we did. Here's also what the figure looks like, which is a much taller Robin. This is, I believe, the Robin from the Infinite Frontier. While this is a Robin that definitely isn't not in scale with the Batmans behind him, it does give you at least an idea of how much smaller this Dick Grayson Robin is in comparison. Rounding out Robin's accessories, the figure comes included with a Batarang with string in tow. Comes included with the same default black display stand with the DC logo branded on the top. It comes included with a trading card, and he comes included with what I was surprised to see, a whole bunch of interchangeable hands. Not counting the ones that he has on the ends of his forearms, the figure actually does get packed with another 6 different hands that have different gestures to them. Let's, though, go back to the trading card first. The first thing the figure will come included with, or at least the first thing we'll look at, the figure comes included with a trading card that does, in this case, say Dick Grayson, but has it as the DC Rebirth. I did say earlier it was the Silver Age Dick Grayson, but essentially we do get ourselves the trading card that advertises this more as the DC Rebirth Robin. The costume, though, as you can see, is exactly the same. The only thing that I would say is very much different is the head sculpt that they decided to settle on. I wish that we could have gotten one that had a little bit more energy, a little bit more expression on his face like we get here presented on the card. Unfortunately, this Robin sort of seems a little somber when we get to the head sculpt. We're going to talk more about that in a moment. Flip, though, around to the back of the card. And actually, by the way, I did want to mention again, I love the fact that they are using source material and not figure photography. Flip, though, around on the back. The real name, of course, is Richard Dick Grayson with a fairly beefy read. You can pause the video and read for yourself. It happens to be the same thing. As always, I read at the beginning of the video. Going to move that to the card. That's a nice looking card, by the way. Going to move that to the side. I actually have the cover that has this Robin. Of course, what's cut off is the Batman at the top corner, but nice looking card. Figure also comes included, though, a little on the more faded side. He comes included with a black display stand with the DC logo down below. McFarlane's team continues to prove that they are one of the sole companies still packing display stands with their figure lines. Think about any other company that right now is packing in. Of course, there's always the import, the higher end, more expensive $100+ figures and up that come included with their own designated display stands. But just think of a regular retail released toy line that still comes included with display stands. You'll be counting on really one hand. DC logo, once again, is branded down below. You got one single peg up the top corner. If you wanted to pose this guy in any more of an interesting pose than the boring pose that this guy's got him in right now, definitely make use of that display stand. It is, by the way, something that's going to plug into the bombs of either one of his feet. The figure also comes included with a series of interchangeable hands. To be completely honest with everybody, I did actually swap out the hands after I took this guy out of his plastic prison. He did actually have, I think, at least on one side, a closed fist. But he does also get the mirroring version of that if you wanted to swap out the hands for a couple of punching hands instead. These are all molded here in green plastic. The figure also comes included with a whole bunch of gestured hands. Now, I did actually swap out this hand just simply so he could actually hold the batarang with the string. Now, if you did want to have it on, though, on the other side, he does also come included with a gripping hand also for that side of the figure's body as well. Again, just molded in green plastic. Then he also comes included with a gestured hand, which I actually kind of like this hand. You can get the chance, hopefully, providing the camera's going to focus. You can see there's some nice wrinklage that they did. Wrinklage, is that a word? They did sculpt some wrinklage on the inside of his glove. And again, it's all done here in a green plastic. I even think for the smallest touch of detail, the fact that they would stretch it so it looked like it was like an actual glove, a very stretchy material, granted, glove, but one that would actually stretch across his hand would have natural stretch marks on there. I'm glad to see that as small of a detail as it, they still managed to put that in on the actual glove itself. Then the figure also comes included with a pointing hand. He also comes included with a thumbs up hand. So again, there's quite a lot of stuff that you can actually display along with the figure. Being also as well, I'm going to bring in the Carrie Kelly Robin. I did also want to show you guys that the green that they used for Dick Grayson isn't quite the same green that they used for Carrie Kelly. So if you thought for yourself, well, I could always just use one of the hands for the Carrie Kelly Robin, you can, from the sense that at least it uses the same peg, but you really can't because, of course, it's a different type of green altogether. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. The figure, like I said, does come included with a batarang. The batarang, in this case, does have a string. The string is looped through a little hole in the top of the batarang and tied on a very bulky knot, so preventing the string from coming off. It's a fairly long string. It doesn't actually connect to anything, though. So if anything, you're just going to have it dangling next to the figure's body. And then, of course, you can then take the hand. I did swap out this hand after all. You can take yourself the batarang and fit it into his hand. Now you got Robin with batarang in hand. If you did want to repeat that over here, simply just pop the hand off and replace it again with this hand here. Let's move all those accessories out of the way and get a closer look at Robin here. Now, for all intents and purposes, we do get ourselves pretty much, again, the same Carrie Kelly body. I'm going to bring her in right now so you can see the difference between the two. Really, of the two bodies, one would certainly say as well that the Dick Grayson Robin, while still using the same body mold, definitely takes things in a darker direction. You can see, like for the tunic, for example, it's a much more darker red than the lighter red that we get here for Carrie Kelly. I think for all intents and purposes, you could also pop the head off on Robin, replace it with Carrie Kelly if you did want to have a lighter looking Robin. The only downside to that is that the arms are going to be a different color and the legs are going to be a different color. So Carrie Kelly's is a little bit more lighter of a pink skin tone, where Robin's is a little bit more of a slightly more yellowish skin tone. Just show you the difference between the two. The capes are also identical to one another as well, other than maybe Robin's does have a little bit more vibrancy when it comes to the yellow that they use for the plastic on the back here. Carrie Kelly's Robin would have been more of a lighter yellow. Here's the thing about the figure. While I do like the fact that they did finally give us a Dick Grayson Robin, I gotta say, to be honest, I don't love the head sculpt. I think, first of all, maybe perhaps it's a little too big for the entire frame of his body. When you're looking at the proportions of his torso, his arms, and his legs, I almost feel, in fact, that Robin, understanding, of course, as a child's going to have a larger head than the proportions for the rest of the body. As you get older, of course, you start to fill out, not only lengthwise, but widthwise as well. But I think like the head is maybe a tad bit too big for the rest of Robin's body. And while there is maybe a smirk that they did sculpt in there, I would have liked them to take that to the extreme and maybe even gave it a bigger smile, like a big exaggerated smile like he has here on the front of the card. Robin just doesn't have as much of that. Also with his hair too. The hair is kind of combed just in a very simple way. I would have liked if they could have just spiked it just a little bit. Obviously, he's not going to have spikier hair like some of the later released Robins, but I think that the hair sculpt is really good. I just would have maybe exaggerated just a little bit more than what we actually get. You know, again, like other than just the head being a little bit on the more bigger side, it's not a bad looking likeness of Dick Grayson, depending on where you like to pull your pages of Dick Grayson from. DC Rebirth, or again, like the more Silver Age issues of Batman. It's not a bad looking Robin. I just, again, like wish there was a little more playfulness maybe sculpted on his face. And again, I continue to bring the card in here only just as the reference point of kind of like where I would like to have seen the figure go and what we ultimately just did get for Dick Grayson's Robin. Getting a closer look again at his face. I do like at least that they did sculpt in a smirk. You can kind of see it on the side of his face. The mask, while it doesn't look like it attaches to anything, I guess that he would have just stuck it to his face, is a nicely painted mask at least, and you get the chance to see as well the white of his eyes. The hair, again, is nicely sculpted. I mean, again, if you just want the more simpler looking kind of comb to the side. Burt Ward Robin does certainly ring a bell when it comes to the way they've sculpted the face. Again, it's not a bad looking head sculpt. I just kind of wish there was a little bit more energy with it. As for the rest of the figure's body, we've already established the fact it's going to be using the same body as the Carrie Kelly Robin. I did notice though with Robin here, this arm right here, every time I move the arm out and I try to move the arm, I end up popping the joint out. It seems to be relying on a mushroom peg, so it simply just plugs back in. So it's not going to be broken or anything like that. If you have had the chance to pick up this Robin, let me know if you've had similar issues with the arm. It really only seems to be on this side. The other side seems fine, really. I mean, I can rotate the arm again. There's going to be bicep swivel just because, again, there's utilizing that mushroom peg. But it's only seemed to be this one arm that seems to be popping off on a regular basis for me. He still has, of course, the Robin logo here on the side. It's fairly large of a logo, but again, because they're using the same one that we got for Carrie Kelly. Carrie Kelly's, funny enough, does actually seem a little bit smaller, but I think it has more to do with the fact that the tunic is more of a lighter red, and Robin's is a much more darker red. He has the scaling there for sort of his lower trunks that he's got here as well. He's got bare legs, and he's got those little tiny elf shoes, which is, again, no different than the Carrie Kelly we looked at before. Peg holes on the undersides of Robin's feet, so again, you can attach them onto the display stand. That's what they're there for. And again, you can get this guy in a little bit more of an interesting pose, similar to what I had at the beginning of the video. Let's run through this guy's articulation. We're going to start first with his head sculpt. Even though he has a fairly large head, Robin's head, when it comes to rotating, doesn't seem hindered at all. Under certain conditions, when you do rock the head back, you can kind of see there's a gap where the peg, the ball joint, is actually plugged into the inside of his head. But then again, you can really get a lot of mileage out of Robin's head. You can move it up, you can move it down, and you can also rock it back and forth as well. The arms themselves work the exact same way as the Carrie Kelly, so they come out at 90 degrees. You can also take those arms as well, just get around the cape. You can rotate them all the way around, although right here, you're going to see it's going to start rubbing against the cape, so you're probably not going to be able to get a full rotation. That's only going to manage to break Robin's arm anyways. But again, for all intents and purposes, if really the cape wasn't in the way, you'd be able to rotate it all the way around, 360. Because, again, that mushroom peg allows the arm to rotate back and forth the bicep. The figure does have a double hinge on the elbow, and the hands rotate all the way around. As for the upper torso isn't ball jointed here, but this is a more softer plastic that they use for the tunic, so you can actually rotate underneath all that, where that's attaching to the waist. Underneath the waist, actually, there's ball joints for the tops of the thighs. You can split the legs on Robin. You can also take the legs and move them forward, move them back. There's a mild swivel at the top of the thigh, double hinge once again on the knee. And there's, again, articulation not only back and forth on the ankles, you can rock them back and forth this way. And Robin also has toe articulation as well. Again, like, it's a good-looking Robin. Like, I'm happy finally that we did get ourselves more Golden Age, or I keep saying Golden Age, like a Silver Age Robin. Again, though, pulled from the pages of DC Rebirth. I'm just going to slide over Robin here. I think, if anything, we just need to get ourselves more of a classic-looking Batman. And then, again, we can bring in Carrie Kelly's Robin. Really, the mold that started it all when it came to me alluding that they were eventually going to be releasing a Robin. And sure enough, they did. Not necessarily in the Dark Knight Returns line, but essentially, though, released as a gold label edition. Bring in a brand new head sculpt and accessories that weren't found before when you looked at Carrie Kelly. Again, it's a nice-looking Robin. I think, if anything, I would say I just wish it had a little bit more, I don't want to say personality in the face. Like, the face, first of all, I think is still a little too large for the rest of his body. But I think if they just incorporated a little bit more energy, a little bit more expression, a little bit more playfulness in the Boy Wonder's face, that's all. Even though the trading card that came included with Robin does say DC Rebirth, that artwork is actually pulled from a cover art from an All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder. If that was the case and they did want to use that art, I'm surprised they just didn't call it All-Star Batman and Robin, rather instead than calling it DC Rebirth. Either way, though, we still get ourselves a classic-looking Robin that does look finely nice to be putting on the shelf along with the Batmans. We've gotten already lots of Robins. I think we have this might make the 5th or 6th Robin that we've gotten from the DC Rebirth, the DC Multiverse line, but this is the one that's the most classically sound. It does use, again, the same body as the already earlier looked at Carrie Kelly Robin, which is, again, fine. When I already had a look at the Carrie Kelly, I already knew that they were probably going to be using that body again for a Robin, and sure enough, they did, just slapping, again, a head sculpt differently done here to look more like Dick Grayson's Robin. It does look like Dick Grayson's Robin, although I would say still, like, the head seems too big for the rest of his body. I would probably have shrunk the head just a little bit, because, of course, a younger kid's going to have still a bigger head for the rest of his body's proportions. As you get a little bit older, of course, your body's still going to continue to grow, and your head's not going to be growing as much. I like the look of this Robin, although, again, I really wish that this Robin could have had a little bit more, I don't know, energy. I was trying to find a way to best describe it, and here, wrapping up in final looks, the only thing I can really describe it as saying, I wish he had more expression. more like big smile on his face or something along those lines than just giving him a smirk on his face. Shrinking down the head and giving a bigger smile on his face would have really, I think, improved the look of this figure. But again, it's a nice overall looking Robin. And again, it's scaled better. That's the one good thing, because again, like when we looked at Earl already before, the Infinite Crisis Robin, that Robin would have been way too big to go along with, say, the DC Rebirth Batman or even like the Hush Batman. Way too big of a Robin. This one fits better in the scale, I feel. And again, if you're looking for a more classic looking Robin, look no further than the one that we're getting here for the Gold Label Edition. What do you guys think of this Robin? Let me know down below in the comments section. Have you had the chance to pick up this version of Robin, or are you planning to pick this one up? And if you aren't, let me know down below in the comment section what you just overall think of the figure. Once again, I'd like to thank the folks over at McFarlane Toys that did provide this sample of the Gold Label Edition DC Rebirth Dick Grayson Robin. That's going to fill out quite a long title when eventually I get this thing uploaded on YouTube. But it's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way, guys, certainly as well. If you guys enjoyed the video you just finished watching, why not throw it a like? If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you are new here, first time maybe seeing this channel and the content the guy behind the camera is doing, you would like to stick around for more, thank you for that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and that you're also turning on the bell notification. I know it always seems for the long-time viewers, I'm always advocating that bell notification, but a lot of times that's the guarantee at least to ensure that you guys are seeing everything that's happening here on this channel. Sometimes there are videos that slip in the cracks, and simply that's just the case because if you don't have the bell notifications on, YouTube doesn't always recommend those videos. So making sure, of course, that you're seeing everything that's happening here on a regular basis, turn on the bell notification. It's definitely going to be a lot more DC Multiverse figures coming your way. So as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.